Well, everybody, let's check out our featured pod here this morning for Pro Tour Murders at Karlov Manor. There it is, always a very exciting moment as the players walk in and sit down at the draft table. And there is your world champion, Jean-Emmanuel Depraz, at the head of the table. Ooh, I see Ben Stark as well, Cedric.
Pretty nice draft pod to kick things off. Two of the best limited players of all time. Magic's past, arguably Magic's present as well. And Ben Stark and Jean-Emmanuel Depraz, they both love limited and they're both very good at it.
Absolutely they are. And Jean-Emmanuel Depraz, your current reigning world champion, is our featured drafter here this morning. We'll see every pick from every pack. Started playing in 2005, 6 top finishes to his name. And Jean-Emmanuel Depraz, I was talking to him yesterday, says he absolutely loves this limited format, but he doesn't want to draft a fast deck. He said he loves the format because it is so very slow. So I'm really interested to see what he does this morning. I'm going to pass it over on to Marshall and Monty with the call here. Draft this morning at Pro Tour Murders at Karlov Manor.
Thank you, Maria. That was great stuff. Setting us up for the limited portion. That's Monty DeVidio, Marshall Sutcliffe. Thank you so much for joining us here for the opening draft. You can always feel the tension in the room when players sit down for that first draft. And we have, well, an interesting table featuring one of the limited goats and another limited goat as well. We've got Ben Stark, who, you know, he hasn't been around quite as much lately, but in his heyday was considered one of the best limited players. And we've got one of the best limited players today in Jean-Emmanuel Depraz.
Yeah, I think a lot of the players currently playing on the Pro Tour are very much in unison, in agreement that JD might just be the best drafter in the world. He certainly believes that he is the best drafter in the world. So the confidence is there, and I think his results definitely back this up as well.
There's Ben Stark. Ben staying true to his Pro Tour personality. He was about 27 seconds to go for the draft when he sat down. All right, let's get into pack number 1 here. Jean-Emmanuel Depraz. We're going to be riding along with our world champ and see how he approaches this format. I know we had a little chat with him last night, and seems to think he can get away with something a little slower than the other players.
Yeah, he said that people are wrong. He explicitly said this is not a fast format. It's a format where you can do anything, and that's what he's open to. He's not going to force any certain strategy. He doesn't have his color preferences match up with what most of the other players have. White is the best color, but he's open to anything. He's ready to play.
All right, he's opened up a repulsive mutation here in the rare slot. And it looks like there's a makeshift binding, and maybe a little hint he's pulled Case of the Shattered Pact up to the front of the pack, too.
I mean, Marshall, I love the 5-color, 4-color decks in this format. Case of the Shattered Pact, awesome, but it's a makeshift binding. This card is pretty decent removal for any creature in this format, and the little bit of life gain does make up for the overly aggressive nature of the format that other people seem to believe we're dealing with.
Oh, look at this, though. He likes Simic, and he's going to go with Repulsive Mutation right off the top. Not afraid to go into 2 colors.
No, definitely not. And Repulsive Mutation is an interesting one. You know, I don't really have it that high, so Jean-Emmanuel picking it here first pick over premium removal is really cool. It's kind of a flexible card. It is a pump spell, but it is also that reactive counter spell. So he's already showing that his color preferences and his card ordering might be different than what we expect.
That's right. He sees Reckless Detective. He's pulled that to the front, but now it's Evidence Examiner. There's also a Flourishing Bloomkin, Deduce, and a Glint Weaver that he has kind of pulled to the near the front of the pack. I mean, an Evidence Examiner to follow up, you know, Simic into Simic doesn't seem too bad.
Yeah, I love the Bloomkin. Big fan of that card, but I think especially if you're maybe trying to send a bit of a signal that, hey, Simic is definitely not here. Taking the Examiner, really solid pick. It's a 2-drop, which is the type of creature you're looking for. You don't mind trading it off if you have to. And if you get some incidental clues, excellent.
All right, well, he's going for it. Let's see what he picks up. 3rd pick here. There's a Sample Collector in his colors. There's an Undercover Crocodile back there as well. And a Vengeful Creeper, and 2 Market Watch Phantom.
Yeah, in case you weren't interested in white, what if we give you two of White's premium common 2-drop.
This is he's actually looking at it here too. Interesting. He doesn't want the foil. He wants the regular. Well, he is going to take it.
I'm surprised. I don't know how you feel about Sample Collector, but I think that card is pretty solid as a 2/3.
I do too.
Collecting evidence, you do want that sort of effect. So maybe a bit of waffling here, just seeing the premium white common and wanting to stay open.
That's right. All right, well, let's see where he goes there. He's got Cease and Desist. He's pulled, okay, Extract a Confession to the front. That would be his first black card. And there's also a Topiary Panther, you know, to help enable multiple colors. Yeah, and also get his Evidence Examiner going.
I'm a big fan of the Panther. It's just, it's color fixing. It's a large creature when you get to the late point of the game.
Or he could splash the Extract. Whoa!
Draft.
Oh, he's going for Cease and Desist here?
Okay, all right.
Well, that is actually another way to get collecting evidence going, I suppose.
25 seconds.
Yeah, the converted mana cost of Cease and Desist is high, so it's great for collecting evidence. It's a cantrip. It is a cheap effect, so I kind of get it, but that is a way higher valuation than I think either of us have.
Couldn't he just have wheeled Cease and Desist?
I think he would have gotten it back.
He's got Hedge Maze pulled to the front here. This is one of the Surveil lands at the rare slot. These have performed very well. You know, I take these highly, especially if there's a splash or if they're in my core colors.
Yeah, I think it is a really important piece of these multicolored decks that maybe Jean-Emmanuel is leaning towards, are these rare lands where you can get them. Just having that early Surveil effect, trying to set up your early turns, really powerful stuff.
Interesting. He's pulled a Crawl Whipcracker to the front. There's also a Forum Familiar. The Whipcracker would be his first actual black card that required black
5
mana.
seconds.
Yeah, the Forum Familiar not overly exciting if you're not going to be a white deck. And I think after that Phantom, he hasn't really leaned in that direction. So it does make sense, but...
So that puts him into all colors but red at this point?
Every single one but red.
Ooh, there's the
corner hook. You want to add the fifth one?
Yeah, maybe so.
Okay.
Insidious Roots is cool, but there's no way he can... All right, he's looking at Deduce.
Yeah, Jean-Emmanuel actually talked to me about the Roots yesterday. He said, I like green-black. I find myself there a lot, but I'm not in the Roots deck. I think that's too cute. It's too hard to make it work.
Cards to your left.
Green-black has a lot of good cards. Those are the cards I want to play. I'm not going to mess with Insidious Roots, and I think that's what we're seeing here.
Man, at this point, I'm trying to figure out if we're watching a genius at work or a train wreck unfold in front of us. Because, like, he's now in 4 colors. He has a bit of fixing, but not that much.
It's pack 1.
Okay, he's going to take a Perimeter Enforcer. Yeah, so let's not lock in the genius or grifter quite yet.
Yeah, we'll give it time to play out.
All right, we'll let this marinate a little. Yeah. I'll meet you back in pack 3, and then we'll start passing judgment.
We'll circle back.
Or giving him praise, whichever one. Okay, there's a case of the Shattered Pact.
5 seconds.
Yeah.
And that has to be necessary here. Officious Investigation's not, or Interrogation's not really good anyway.
Yeah, that's the wheel from his first pack. I think that's exactly the card he wanted when he's picked 4 colors worth of cards after first picking a Simic card. So that's a great wheel. And it says maybe other people not really in that multicolor lane.
There's an alternate art Deduce here, and he's going to take that.
Second Deduce added to the pile.
Yeah, you know, I really like the Simic deck, the straight-up Simic deck, the game plan where, you know, you have two mana interactive cards that you can pick up for the deck that allow you to kind of maneuver in the early stages when you don't have those great board-affecting cards. But then later on, this deck just produces a lot of clues, and it also happens to have a lot of disguise creatures that are just bigger than other cards, and so you can start using your mana either to cash in clues or transform your disguise creatures and take over the game in the late part. He's stretching that a bit, though. I mean, we are 4 colors here, and he looks like he's really happy to be picking up any fixing he can.
Yeah, he's going to need some early plays because I think the 4/5 color decks in this format are very powerful, and I love drafting them. But the key point is surviving the early turns. That is the inflection point of the format. Once you get to the later turns, you can really play anything, any number of colors, as long as you have the fixing, which is why we're seeing him prioritize it. So your end game can really be whatever the most powerful cards you get are, but you have to survive to that point. So there's a lot of emphasis on 2-drops, cheap interaction, removal. If he can pick those up, I think he is shaping up to have that ability to play whatever the next 2 packs give him.
Yeah, and you know, the way he's laying out these cards, it looks like those white cards are not being heavily considered at the moment. So perhaps he's just kind of in a Sultai deck, which works really well. The fixing's nice, the cards tend to work well together. The Crawl Whipcracker is definitely a reason to want to be in black, so that could work out well for him.
Yeah, the Whipcracker is a little awkward because ideally you want to play it on turn 2, and as your splash color, that may not be ideal, but a 3-2 with a sometimes relevant ability is still fine on raid if you play it later on in the game as a double spell alongside something else.
Okay. All right, well, here's pack 2, pick 1 coming up, and let's see if he solidifies himself into like a color trio, or if he's just going to be a bunch of colors, or maybe if he trims it down to like just being Simic and doesn't go for the splashes. So this will be a pack that will define what direction he wants to go moving forward. And let's see what he picks up here, pack 2, pick 1.
Yeah, I think the big thing right now is his white cards don't really play well with the rest of the cards that he has.
They're more curve. Izoni here?
All right, that would be pretty nice.
Let's see what he picks up.
And Ezra maybe?
Yeah, that would, that would be fantastic.
All right, we see a 2-drop.
Oh, he picked up one of the best bombs in the set here, Incinerator of the Guilty.
Marshall, it's a red card.
Oh, but double red.
Look.
Can he justify this?
If I'm JD, I'm doing it. This card is absolutely ridiculous.
You just have to, right?
You're not passing much. Take a look at this pack. You're really not losing out on. What are you going to take? A Vidigazi? Inspector? No, that's not happening.
No, and Living Conundrum's not a thing.
I think you make it work.
No, you're right. He's not taking much, and plus this is one of the absolute top cards in this set, probably top 5 cards in this set, full stop. That's the type of card that when it hits the battlefield, if you get to untap with it, it is over. Game over. Done. You don't get to play anymore.
This type of deck will never lack the evidence to get that ability off. You will always be able to do it. Wipe your opponent's board, have a giant dragon.
The question is, can he cast it? It's double red, and he's now in all 5 colors technically. We're kind of leaning towards he might not be playing the white cards because he's only got the 2, and as you mentioned, they don't really fit. Wow, some good blue stuff here, though. Cold Case Cracker, Lost in the Maze, and favorite, the Exit Specialist here too.
Yeah, Mana War, straight to your liking, and I think probably the best card here, just the ability to play it as a 2-drop when you need a speed bump, play it as that disguise form when you can afford to get off its ability. Lost in the Maze, incredibly powerful card, but I think a little too expensive for the deck that JD is drafting.
Yeah, the Exit Specialist is the least mana intensive of those cards as well. I mean, it has the option on, no mana of any color.
Right.
And then, just 1 blue at some point can get it going as well. So he's going to take Exit Specialist. That'll move us to pick 3. There's a Crime Stopper sprite. There's a Public Thoroughfare. Are we already in the mode of I need to start picking these up so I can cast my spells?
I think so. I think JD's card rankings here should be first, things that are bombs. Second, things that can make me survive. Third, fixing.
He took it.
Yeah.
Public Thoroughfare here for Jean-Emmanuel Depraz, and we are directly into the deep end. I like this. This is sweet.
I love what he is doing here. This is exactly the type of deck that I like to draft, and just having the fixing will really enable you to feel indestructible after turn 4 or 5. So if he can get those cheap plays, this is going to be a really cool game plan.
Yeah, this is him showing a lot of discipline. We call it eating your vegetables, right? You got to take the Thoroughfare. And look, they went this way. That would fit right in too. Yeah. It looks like he's going to take it. Oh yeah, so he is doing all of the things. Again, those white cards don't really fit the deck, so I would assume a 4-color deck at this point, but he wants that dragon in there.
Absolutely.
And if he picks up a Galvanize here or there, a Shock, he could do those too.
Happily.
Pick up 10 cards, you have 25
Interestingly,
seconds.
white has really dried up, which I'm not surprised about. It is considered the best color by a fair bit in the format. And he probably feels pretty clever for having sidestepped it. Looks like he's got an interesting choice here. Wow, 3 good cards, actually. Tunnel, Tipster, Bite Down on Crime, and Eliminate the Impossible all would go well in his deck.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Eliminate.
5
it
seconds.
does lead into that game plan of surviving, as does Bite Down on Crime. Tipster, really good piece
Shuffle
of
and
ramp,
count
but no
9
real
cards
blocking
to your
ability
rod.
early. So I think with the cards that we've seen, and this Bite Down on Crime specifically,
Pick up 9
we
cards,
go
you have
back
20
to that
seconds.
Cease and Desist that he picked early. That gives you 2 mana evidence for Bite Down on Crimes, and now it's a 2 mana removal spell, and you're starting to get that curve going.
He's opened up the Pride of Hulklade here. Card hasn't played out very well, though, and he's got options
5
on
seconds.
an Out Cold. I would assume he takes Out Cold. Yeah, that is exactly
Draw.
that speed bump type
Shuffle
of card
and
that you
count
talked
8
about. And
cards
when
to
I
your
was
right.
talking earlier about how this color, well, I was talking about a color pair at the time, but you know, Out Cold, it just, well,
Pick
there's
up
an
8
Investigate
cards, you
token.
have
It buys
20
you time. You
seconds.
crack it later, and you can use it to take over the game.
Yeah, just being able to... Ooh, Treacherous,
Ooh, Treacherous Terrain. Okay. That's another one that is an instant collect evidence enabler.
Yeah, it's fixing, and it enables collect evidence, much like Topiary Panther.
Yep.
You know, the castable
seconds.
side of it, less good than Topiary Panther in my opinion. But as far as the effect, it
Draw.
really accomplishes the
Shuffle
same
and
goal.
count
You get to
7
fix,
cards to
and then
your
you get
right.
to collect evidence from it.
Whenever I see Treacherous Terrain, I'm like, game plan acquired, friends.
7 cards, you have 15 seconds.
Let's do this. All right, it looks like there's a Curious Inquiry, Case of the Trampled Garden hiding back there as well. Yeah, this is really not a
5
Curious
seconds.
Inquiry deck. It's kind of not a Case of the Trampled Garden deck either, but maybe.
Yeah,
Draw.
I think
Shuffle
one
and
is
count 6
maybe
cards
you're
to your right.
playing it. The other, you're definitely not.
Right. Case of the Trampled
Pick up
Garden's a
6
good
cards, you have
card,
10
but
seconds.
he's just much more defensively stanced at this. Wow, there's a Lightning Helix still in this pack?
That's a
5
wheeled
seconds.
Lightning Helix from his first pick.
Oh,
this is what
okay.
he picked the Incinerator over. So,
Yeah.
are you thinking nobody's
Shuffle
in
and count
Boros at
5
this table?
cards.
I
The
guess
best
so.
color pair in the format?
Yeah, it feels like
Pick up
white
5
has
cards,
been
you have
heavily
10
contested,
seconds.
and we haven't seen any shocks or galvanizes, but seems like nobody's in both colors.
Yeah.
5 seconds.
Because Helix is premium.
Premium.
It plays really well in this
Draft.
format, on top of it
Shuffle
being good in every
and count
format.
4 cards to
Absolutely.
your right.
Unauthorized Exit, a pretty
Pick up
nice
4
late
cards, you have
pickup, I
5
think, for
seconds.
JD.
Definitely.
Outside of the disguise creatures,
It's your favorite, Monty. It's the
Draft.
Pompous Gadabout.
the Gadabout.
I don't think it'll make the
Pick up
cut,
3
but
cards, you
maybe.
have 5 seconds.
Maybe. Well, we'll see how desperate we get.
Picks
for
up a
3 mana
breakout.
4/2.
Breakout on the splash, not so
Draft,
great.
pass 2
Not
cards to
ideal.
your right.
But, you
Pick
know,
up
this
2
was a
cards, you have 5
well-rounded pack for
seconds.
JED, right? He picked up a super powerful bomb. He picked up
Draft, collect
much-needed
your final
fixing.
pick.
And he rounded it out with these later
You may
picks
now
with
review your
cards like
picks. You have
Hotshot
90
Investigators
seconds to review.
and Unauthorized Exit.
Yeah, he got speed bumps, he got fixing, and he got a bomb. I think this was the ideal pack too. His
Yeah.
direction is a lot more cemented. I think at this point it is very fair to say that he's not really considering the white anymore. It's a base Simic, maybe Sultai deck, and then you have that red splash available to you.
Do you think he's going to play black? I think it's just the Crawl Whip Cracker right now.
Right now, I don't think he's playing
60
black.
seconds.
I
Okay.
think he's looking at a Simic deck that has the Incinerator.
Okay.
He does like some of the black cards that he could have access to, so with the fixing, maybe, but that is a pack 3 decision.
In other words, the Pompous Gadabout is in right now.
It's in. He pulled the Whip Cracker to the front, though. It is the second card in his pile, so when looking at his creature suite, which this is primarily it, by the way, it's these 5 at the front here.
This is ridiculous, by the way.
30
Evidence
seconds.
Examiner, Crawl, Whip Cracker, you're like, okay, yeah, and then it's like, Incinerator of the Guilty? Exit Specialist? Like, wait a minute, what
Pompous
happened here?
Gadabout?
The Gadabout's
the 3
just
premiums
running
at the
around.
top there.
Oh, man. This has been awesome. I really want to see how well this deck does at a table like this, too.
Yeah, I think one thing that does need to be noted is just the difference of pod
5
play,
seconds.
something that we haven't really seen, right? This is the
Stop
premier
reviewing.
event for
Return
Murders
all
at
of your
Karlov
picks to a
Manor.
single
So
face-down
how
pile,
will
and if you
pod
can now
play
please
affect
take
this
your
format? How
C
many people
booster,
will be in those white
remove the
decks?
paper wrapper,
Definitely. And, you know, I would assume
flip around the 1
slower,
card and count and check
and
that you have
a lot of people fighting.
14
So, you know, this
unmarked
is a
cards
very
in your C
logical
booster.
position to find yourself in, which is just basically avoiding those colors and being able to pick up whatever you want. And he likes this strategy. Like,
he does.
He wins with it, he said, in the format. So he's probably pretty happy. You know, it's weird because this is not the type of deck that you would look at and say, this is awesome.
Remain without speaking.
I mean, I would.
I mean, I think it's awesome in the, like, it's really cool. But, you know, if you came up to me and said, here's my really solid Boros deck, or would you rather have this one? I'd be like, oh, I'll stick with the Boros deck.
Yeah, give me the Boros. I'm safe.
All right, let's see what he picks up here. Pack 3, pick number 1. He's got a bite down on crime, so he's got a backup plan if he doesn't find a bomb or something great. Was there anything else? Head Whisperer?
Flotsam Jetsam?
Yeah, Flotsam Jetsam's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It has a lot of the same stuff that Cease and Desist has, except for the Jetsam's actually playable.
Yeah, it does help
cool.
having, okay, the theater, that is, if he was considering playing black, that is a nice pick. We did talk about how much we like Hedge Maze and that cycle. Those lands do add a lot to these decks, but maybe just wanting the cheap removal here. You know, Bite Down on Crime is cheap removal in this deck. That's the goal, is make this card cheap removal.
He could have a very good wheel out of this pack, too. There were numerous cards there that he would be happy taking, and it doesn't feel like he's fighting too hard for anybody, so we'll see what he gets back out of it.
I agree.
Ooh, there's a Delny, but that is not really the name of the game for JD for this draft. What else does he have? Undercover Crocodile, Extract a Confession, and there's a Topiary Panther, too. Yeah, there's some decent stuff here.
Yeah, this is not a Delny deck, not a Market Watch Phantom deck, but 3 solid options, 2 really, because again, he's not quite black yet. He has the Extract a Confession pulled out. It is a powerful card if you can cast it on curve, and I think much more important than the Whip Cracker is casting Extract on curve. You want to be able to play that on turn 2, on turn 3.
Shuffle and
so once again, he's going to eat his vegetables here and take a Topiary Panther. It is a plant, by the way. So.
It is a plant.
Literal vegetables.
Literal vegetables.
Pick up 12
Maybe
cards.
this vegetable is eating you, you know. A little scary.
That's a good point. That's a good point. What is, oh, that's a Crawl Whip Cracker.
Deceptively so, does it?
Yeah, that does not, you look green, black, or gold somehow, but there it is.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool, though.
It is. I do like the look of it. So has another Whip Cracker, has a Mortipede pulled up. I do think he has another Mortipede maybe in his pile somewhere.
Well, he really likes the Whip Cracker.
Yeah, okay.
Or he wants a cool alternate art one for his collection.
For his collection.
Yeah, either way.
That's the memory.
Look, when you're as good as JD, you can just be like,
stick
for the pretty art. What do
You can waste the second pick, it's fine. But I think the card is really good, and I think it is the type of card that it does get better later on in the game when you can take advantage of the destroy
Pick up 11
target
cards,
token
you have
ability.
25 seconds.
Okay, yeah, for sure. That's a Frantic Scapegoat alternate art, by the way, so that's not going to be on his radar this time. Bubble Smuggler, and there's the card that we talked about before, Insidious Roots, but as you mentioned, he doesn't seem to like it, and he said he didn't.
Yeah, Fanatical Strength, also not really interesting.
5 seconds.
What does he go for?
It's just a Bubble Smuggler.
Yeah.
It's a 2-drop, it's a 3-drop, and it's pretty big later on in the game.
Count 10 cards to your left.
And it's cute.
And it's cute. It never hurts to be cute.
Pick up 10
like sea
cards,
creature
you have 25
cards.
seconds.
Yeah.
Partial to the sea creatures. All right, what do we got here? Well,
Not the land you're looking for.
There's another Lightning Helix really late, by the way.
Yep.
But there's a Vengeful Creeper and an Undercover Crocodile. Both playable, both totally fine.
I lean toward the Crocodile just because it's a 5-drop flip rather than a 6.
5 seconds.
I think that makes all the difference in this format. So.
I think so too.
Yeah.
You know, I mentioned it before about,
Draft.
you know, the Simic
Shuffle
deck
and
having
count
either a bunch of
9
clues
cards to your left.
or having that.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the peak common for bigger than everything else.
Pick up 9
disguise
cards,
creature.
you have 20 seconds.
And he does need creatures. We saw the deck was a little short after pack 2.
That's a clean unauthorized exit, though. That card plays a very big role in that whole speed bump, slow down your opponent, don't get ran over game plan. And he's picking another one up fairly
5
late
seconds.
here. He is looking at Branch of Vidugazi, but I don't see how you could pass an unauthorized exit. Yeah, he's going to take it.
Yeah, I think
Draft.
he's feeling
Shuffle
a little
and
bit of the
count 8
pressure of
cards
being
to your
low on
left.
creatures. He has 2 bite down on
Oh.
crimes that need creatures to
Right.
really do stuff. You saw him
Pick up
eyeing
8
the
cards,
Mortipede
you
as
have
well
20 seconds.
as the branch. He understands that he's a little short. He needs to pick some stuff up, but the unauthorized exit too good to pass up there.
Here's an escape tunnel for the fixing.
Excellent.
Again, you know, really interesting. He's positioned himself with the exception
5
of those
seconds.
lightning helixes, we have not seen good red or white coming through. No shocks, no galvanized,
Draft.
none of the good
Shuffle and
commons
count
Yep.
7
from white
cards
or
to your
red.
left.
The only red card that he's really playing, other than the fixing, is a mythic that he
Pick up
opened.
seven
That he opened,
cards.
Yeah.
exactly.
15
Nobody's
seconds.
passing that.
So that, you know, the idea that this color pair, trio, quadruple, you know, means that, you know, it's kind of cool. He's
5
well
seconds.
positioned against what the rest of the table thinks, and he's even picked up his favorite. And
Draft.
cease and desist.
Shuffle and count 6
Honestly,
cards to your left.
seeing the deck and how it's been drafted out, the first
Pick up
pick
6
makes a
cards,
lot
you
more
have
sense
10
to me as well.
seconds.
I still think he could have wheeled it. I thought it was a little aggressive of a pick.
Uh-huh.
Speaking of wheels, excellent Raucous
seconds.
Theater wheel here.
Interesting. Yeah, that's his splashes. It covers both
Draft.
splashes.
I think
Shuffle and
now
count
he's
5 cards to
definitely
your left.
much happier about these whip crackers as well.
Okay, yeah.
The pair of them, I think they're definitely making the deck now. Yeah, I think the cease and
Pick up
desist
5
makes a
cards,
lot
you
of
have
sense in
10
the pack. It's a
seconds.
2-drop. You gain a little life, you draw a card, and suddenly you have 8 evidence in your
5
graveyard.
seconds.
There's an offender at large. Finally, a decent common coming around.
It's a creature.
Draft.
Yeah.
It works.
Shuffle and count 4 cards to your left.
And thanks to the disguise mechanic,
Pick up
he
4
even could
cards,
play
you
it.
have 5
Exactly.
seconds.
It's
There's his Mortipede, too, if he wants it.
He's been eyeing those for a while. I think it wouldn't be
Draft.
surprising to see him pick it up
Pass
here.
3
he
cards
did.
to your
Yeah.
left.
Yeah, you can tell. You had to read their
Pick
mind.
up
He
3
was worried
cards,
about
you have
creature
5
count
seconds.
for
Yeah.
sure.
He was thinking about it. It was on his mind. And I think he's at a pretty decent creature
Draft.
count. I think he should
Count
be at
2
around
cards to your left.
11 after this pack,
Pick up
maybe
2
12.
cards, you have 5
And I
seconds.
think that's a decent spot when you're playing some cantrips and playing some draw spells. You'll get there.
Yeah,
Draft,
that's about right
collect
where
your
you need to
final
be.
pick.
You'd prefer to have
And now we're
14
gonna
or
be
so,
rejoining
but
the
you
rest
have
of
to
the
make
room, so if you can
room
please
for
check
your, you know,
now
case
for
of the
me that all
shattered
of your
packs,
cards
and
have
they
a
went this
visible
ways. Like
stamp
those
on
take
them.
up card
So please
slots,
just
They do.
quickly
and
go
of course
through
you
your
still need to
picks.
have your removal
Make
in
sure
there
that they
too.
all have
He's
a
taking a quick
stamp,
look at it. It
visible
just
on the
looks like a
card.
random pile of cards until he
Once
lays
you've
it out.
been
It's
through all
pretty
of them,
funny how
if there are
it
any
played out
issues,
this way.
please let
Yeah,
us know.
I think his deck is good. I do. I think
I like it.
it had the potential to be a train wreck after how we saw it start, but I think he's found most of the pieces that you're looking for in this archetype in a deck like this, and he really showed the understanding of the game plan. Fix, survive, big creatures.
And then use up all your mana on big stuff.
Exactly.
Do you think that it will play well against an aggressive deck, assuming that there are some at his pod? I mean,
think
if my opponent goes like turn 1 Novice Inspector, I'm like, oh.
it's going to be tight. I think he's maybe lacking a bit of the interactive tools that he would have liked, but he has the bounce spells, he has the unauthorized exits, he has the life gain, and he has some ramp. So I think he can make it out semi-unscathed.
Okay.
If you're making it to turn 5 and 6 at like 8 life in this deck, I think you're ecstatic.
He can turn
Yeah.
the tides. Let's take a look at how the deck actually turned out that he built. Got some questions that we need answers. There it is. The Pompous Gadabout. It made it.
Made the cut.
Yeah, it had to. I mean, as you mentioned, he was just low on creatures. So, yeah, he went for all of it.
Yeah.
So look at that mana base. That kind of tells the whole tale right there, doesn't it?
Yeah, really what you need is enough basics to cast your bombs. So if you have an incinerator, you need 2 mountains. That is all you need. And Marshall, are you looking at that
Is there a
thinking
thinking
cap?
actually in his deck?
I feel like
No way.
I'm not going to believe that until I see it played.
Agreed. I don't. I think
Are there
it
even
must
any
be something else.
detectives in this deck? There's an exit specialist and a crocodile. Is there anything else that's a detective?
I don't.
Oh,
Yeah.
and he has a second unauthorized exit. Hey,
Yeah, so it must be.
I have a hard time believing that he's not playing both of those.
Look at that top end, though. He's got the Panther, the Crocodile, a Basilica Stalker, which will be in the 3, and then he's got the Incinerator of the Guilty.
I love it. I think this deck is pretty cool. I hope it works out because this is a possible thing in the format, and what I really don't want is to see Jean-Emmanuel Depraz just run over.
That's right. All right, well, we are going to take a short break here from the booth. That was our opening draft, but we get to watch the opening round right after this.